All right, so here we are. Time right now is what time is it? It is 7 o'clock, a little after 7 on this Thursday evening, May 22nd. And we are, or I am anyway, tracking some still continuation of thunderstorms. Although I do expect it to begin to calm down some, at least in our area, in the next few hours here. This activity will gradually kind of move out. But we're still seeing some areas where storms are producing some hail and maybe some a little area, some strong gusty winds. But you're beginning to see the intensity or the coverage of intensity come down with these storms. You don't see quite as many storms now that are producing all these areas of hail and all of these areas where you're seeing all this very, very heavy rainfall here. So it looks like we got perhaps maybe a scammer in here, Frank David. Yeah, let's not let's see if we can get rid of him. We don't need that guy in here. Add to block. Right there we go. All right, so let's talk about what's going on. All right, so we got a little severe thunderstorm warning up here. Now, this was a storm that produced some pretty strong wind gusts in Vernon a little while ago. A few viewers calling me, hey, don't need to get to the basement. No, you need to get to the basement. Nothing rotating in that. But you do got this storm. It's entering an area that's really been worked over by all the storms earlier in the day. There's not a lot of energy over here. I do expect that storm to continue to weaken. But you got some pretty heavy downpours there, about Electra northward up towards the Red River in the Pumpkin Center area. Zooming in a little closer, you can see that Pumpkin Center area. There's some pretty good downpours and some lightning strikes and mostly smaller hail. I think that was an issue for some strong wind gusts, and you do still see some strong winds with that. And that wind gust is kind of surging out ahead of it a bit. So you do got some pretty strong winds now rolling through the northwestern part of Wichita County. Oh, I guess it could be 40, maybe 50 miles per hour. Even though the atmosphere is extremely worked over, there could still be some pretty good wind gusts with all of that. You can kind of see where how that red area just kind of expands outward. What you have is probably have a little mini spin here, a little mini area of low pressure, and that's helping to push those winds out here. And again, a lot of that activity is forming out ahead of that main little storm area here. So you got the strong winds kind of on the leading edge. But the overall thunderstorms themselves are weakening. You have the tops beginning to collapse off of them. That's probably why you're seeing this surge in wind. You got your thunderstorm that looks like this here. This is your top here. So as it begins to weaken, this begins to collapse downward. And as it does, that momentum hits the ground, and then boom, the winds spread out. So you get some strong wind gusts. And that's probably what you're seeing with this here, I bet. Put that in motion, you can kind of see that there. And you got that little weak spin, little weak area of low pressure there too, probably helping to push it out. So strong wind gusts, 30, 40, maybe 50 miles per hour there, moving across the northern parts of Wichita County. And it could weaken some. We'll probably see some of these surges a little bit further to the east a little bit later on here as it moves in those general directions. Into Vernon, it looks like the strongest of the storms are out of your area. Still maybe some little downpours from time to time, but as you can see, this is kind of the northern edge of all this. So a lot of this activity is weakening pretty quickly now. Down to the south, you don't see the widespread repeated areas of heavy rain continuing in some of these areas across Archer and Baylor County. There's still some showers down that way, but you don't see as many storms. So that tells me that things are beginning to lighten up. Strongest storms on radar are these down here in Young County. Still see some large hailstones, and we've had a lot of the hailstones today, larger ones that I've seen with viewers sent from Facebook. Looks like the largest I've seen golf ball to tennis ball size hail. Could have been some larger, but that's what I've seen anyway. I think these storms are probably elevated because it's cooler outside, so their bases are up higher in the atmosphere. So you're looking at mostly some hail and some wind gusts with this stuff, heavy rainfall between Albany and Newcastle. And these storms while the whole area is kind of moving southeast, you can see the storms themselves kind of drifting to the south there, kind of down towards Newcastle. And eventually these storms probably will make their way into Graham. But the strongest, at least for now, stay west and northwest of Graham. But Newcastle, south of Albany, those areas, some pretty good hailstones, but big golf ball size hail as the storm drifts south towards Newcastle and 380. You can see some other storms down to the western part of Young County there, and then you go back to the west, and then you see the storms quite widespread across southern parts of Baylor into Throckmorton County, some heavy downpours there with smaller hail. But again, the heaviest storm we see on the radar is that one just north of Newcastle. Here's a supercell. It's a long-lived supercell. It's been around since about 2:30 this afternoon, and it's continuing to drift south over PK and kind of south of PK now. It'll eventually will storm itself out. But that's probably the best storm on radar. But the whole storm complex, kind of looks kind of like this here. And this whole area will continue to move south and east. And I think after probably 9 o'clock or so, a lot of it kind of drops down into this area here. And you'll see a weakening trend a little bit further to the north. So So, but I'll keep an eye on it. But none of this stuff is majorly bad. Just so that's some decent sized hailstones down there in Young County, Newcastle area. And then you got some decent wind gusts there, Cotton, Wichita County. We'll check those winds out again here. And you can see them kind of surging out there. But, could do some decent winds with that. Probably got a pretty good little shelf cloud with it there from Granville down to about Iowa Park. Scary. The cloud looks scary, but it's actually not. Bark's much worse than the bite. Let's look at the Burtman Net Tower cam, and we can kind of look at that and see what see if we can see that shelf cloud here. Not sure which direction this is pointing right now, by the way. So let's just look and see. Yeah, there's a good look at it. Let me see if that's not my bird tower cam. Give me a second. I'm just trying to maneuver some things here. That's a live look, kind of west-northwest after some pretty good downpour. Actually, some pretty good hailstorm stones in the Burt, just north of Burt today. The area, especially just north of the Red River, seeing some decent, at least, like I say, golf ball to tennis ball size hail. All right, so I'm going to turn the camera here and take a look at things. Give me a second. I'm still getting into my page here. So, all right. So I'll move this a bit. All right. So you can see the shelf cloud now. If you look there in the background, you see that cloud there. It's a low hanging looking cloud here. So what happens in this instance when you're looking at a shelf cloud, this is a big deal. A lot of people text me all the time, or not text me, but message me and say, hey, there's a big wall cloud here. No, that's not a wall cloud. This is a shelf cloud. And the difference between the two is a wall cloud is a rotating cloud. A shelf cloud is a rotating when you have winds coming in and out of it. A shelf cloud happens when you have this colder air, thunderstorm air in the top up here. And then cold air is dense, it's heavy, and it falls out of it kind of like this. And as it does so, it kind of rolls down. A lot of people call these roll cloud or a shelf cloud. But anyway, this is basically just that cool air extending down towards the ground. It's that cool air from the top of the thunderstorm there. And the winds all kind of do like this out of it. That's what it kind of looks like a wave almost. But you don't have winds flowing into it. You just have the winds out of it, like a wave. Some people might call it a wave cloud, but you can see it there on the horizon, and that's that gusty wind area coming out of those storms that are west of Burt Burnett here. So you might get some gusty winds there in Burt. We'll see how it all plays out, and probably see some gusty winds from that Wichita Falls. But that storm is weakening rapidly. I don't even see big hail in that anymore. But you can see there it is. There's that shelf cloud, and there's that strong wind gust there. And you might see, like I say, some 30, 40 mile per hour winds. It doesn't look incredibly strong. We go down to the south here, and there might be some decent, maybe some. Again, this is like way up high, up draft rotation near Prophet with that little supercell that's down here. But they're mostly hail threats, but no tornado threats. Again, I think these are mostly elevated. If you look, the outflow boundary and rain cool boundary, kind of like a front, you will, is here. And north of it, the air is real cool, rain cooled. So they don't have access to what we call that energy at the Earth's surface. So if you look at my way I draw it here, and I know this can be very confusing because it's a lot of interesting weather. Weather can be very confusing. So let's just say this is the Earth's surface here, okay? Actually, let's do it. Let's do it a little bit further down. So let's say this is the Earth's surface. All right. So, on a warm, hot, humid day, you got all this energy that builds up down here, and the thunderstorm will develop. And this is what it kind of looks like there. Sorry, my drawing is pretty bad. And it has all this energy from the Earth's surface that gets drawn into it. And your storm bases are down here lower to the Earth's surface because it's getting all that instability from here. Now, when you get a situation where it's cool outside, you no longer have a situation where there's, that real warm, humid air down here at the Earth's surface. It's still humid, but it won't be as warm. It'll be cool. So what happens is the thunderstorms will be based up. Something will cause them to be based up higher in the sky. because it's getting its energy from up here instead of down here. So your base is up higher, so it produces ice, and it can produce some wind too. But chances for your tornadoes and that kind of stuff pretty much gets eliminated because the storm bases are too high in the sky. So that's kind of a little bit of a science lesson for you there. All right, so let me see if we got anybody asking the questions here. So how bad for the Pauls? Not bad at all. Just a little gusty wind. That's about it. Yeah, it is a pretty sunset. A lot of lightning in Archer. Well, that's going to be decaying thunderstorms down that way in Archer, and a lot of that lightning is going to be up there. It's called anvil lightning. It's coming from the those bigger storms just south of you, and the decaying storms that are over you. Any rain for Bowie? It's hard to say. A lot of this activity is going to miss you to the south and to the southwest there. You might get some, but I think the worst of it's going to be just south of you here. Our next severe threat, Chief, would be in on Sunday, but it doesn't look, if you look at the upper atmospheric winds on Sunday, they're even weaker than today. So, your severe weather threats would be probably limited to, gusty winds and little hail. That's about it. Maybe not even as significant as today. Actually the atmosphere just north of here tomorrow and Saturday would be really nice, but there's nothing to really break storms out in those areas. So. Yeah, with the storm to the DFW area, and I would really have to look and do analysis to see how much energy is down there. And I will real fast. I'm going to look real fast down into that area to see, what the atmosphere looks like down that way. But there is a bit of a severe risk into the Metroplex. And if we go down there and look, and I'm looking right now, looks like the frontal boundary is now kind of south of Wichita Falls, kind of down here. So you got, you do got some instability that has redeveloped in that area, but it looks like the atmosphere could be pretty capped down there. So you might not, it isn't a lot. So we'll have to just see how these thunderstorms, how they behave here. A little bit of a cap is developing in that area. So you may not see them in the Metroplex. I don't think they'll be if you do get them, they won't be as intense as they are now, I don't think. So I'm looking at some weather data now here for you. I think this activity is going to weaken. Yeah, that stuff's going to weaken. There could be some rain down that way, but I don't think anything super serious in the Metroplex. I think that's going to weaken pretty significantly there. You got that one supercell that's kind of northwest of Weatherford and kind of drifting over the eastern shores of PK there, but I think it's slightly elevated. There's probably a wall cloud with it, but I think it's elevated. So, and you got these big hail producers back into Young County about to hit Newcastle with some heavy rain and some hail there. Elbert, 380, Newcastle, into the Prophet areas. Now, this activity is going to eventually make it its way into Graham. I don't know that the hail sizes will be as big as they are to the northwest, but these storms are gradually going to develop southeast into Graham. I think they're going to continue to slowly show signs of weakening here. You got some pretty good storms now down towards Abilene along the outflow boundary, but that's going to drop, kind of south of the Metroplex there. You got some pretty good storms down there, deep South Texas tonight. Got these downpours about to come over Burke Burnett here shortly. Let's look at our Burke Tower Cam again. If I can find it. I'm looking for it. It gets lost in the shuffle. There's Alney. I bet Burke is up here. There it is. All right, so we're looking at the Burke Tower Cam now. It'll pop up here in a second. And there's that shelf cloud. What a cool looking cloud. I know it looks scary, and it looks like it's the end of the world, but it's not. Again, all that is just the cooler air from the thunderstorm that's falling out of the sky is what that is. falls out like this. So as this moves overhead, you will see some wind pickup behind it, and maybe some showers and downpours behind it. But this is not anything tornadic because you don't have winds flowing into it. You basically got winds all again, like a wave, just like that. That's a shelf cloud or a wave cloud or a, whatever you want to call it there. Some people call it a roll cloud. And it probably extends out down even further to the south, but that's about to move over, Burke Burnett, and it's pretty elongated. So it'll probably even hit Wichita Falls here with some gusty winds. You'll get some, probably some 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts with it. But there it is. You can see it there again. It'll get a bit of lightning behind it. Like I say, it looks scary, but it really isn't. And it just kind of stretches out. All along through here. And that is not a wall cloud. Again, you can see the cooler air just kind of hanging off of it. So that's cool, moist air. It's what that is. And then eventually it'll just like that. So some pretty gusty winds. You'll see these trees all blowing in one direction here when that comes over. But pretty cool cloud, to say the least. Tomorrow, this looks like a humid day. I don't think it'll be, I don't think we'll see as many storms around tomorrow. There could be an isolated one or two, but I don't think much. Catherine says, are there be storms in Wichita Falls now or next few hours? I'm sorry, I just joined. You do get this little roll cloud or little shelf cloud that might move over. And there still could be a little bit of a thunderstorm. I think that the worst of it is definitely over with. And the heaviest with this next go round will probably be north of Wichita Falls, kind of like maybe City View and then kind of up towards Burke and those areas. I think the city itself is probably done with the heaviest of the weather. So you're welcome, Melissa. Seymour, the storms are just about out of your area. And once they're gone, that's it. Southern Jefferson County, you got that little thunderstorm area along the Red River. That could maybe brush Southern Jefferson County if it holds together, but nothing too major. Maybe some gusty winds with that little downpour, but probably not. I think a lot of that activity is going to weaken. There's a new severe thunderstorm warning for those gusty winds, and maybe a little hail starting to increase, perhaps maybe just barely west of Burke Burnett. So there could be a little hail moving over Burke and then crossing there and just moving just north of Wichita Falls. And again, you got some gusty winds in that too, but the winds look like they're probably not incredibly strong. If we kind of take a look at it, I'm going to try to look at some of the stronger wind gusts. That's only showing 29 mile per hour wind. So 30 is probably the most you're seeing, maybe slightly higher than that. But again, you do see a little bit of an uptick in the hail sizes there. So you can take off the lightning. I can show you that. You can see that little hail core spiking up there along the Red River, headed right at Burke. Doesn't look like it's going to be anything huge, but it is, like I said, the hail sizes are increasing a bit there. You could perhaps maybe see some nickel size hail, maybe dime the nickel size hail in Vernon with that, in Burke Burnett with that as it rolls its way over towards you, and along with those gusty winds. In Wichita Falls, though, I think that little area of storms, unless it builds southward, will miss us to the north, may brush the northern side of the city. And then you got a little shower area of this decaying thunderstorm cluster here that will move over the city with a few little showers, maybe some lightning with that. But the heaviest activity by far is this activity down in Throckmorton and especially Young County. That's your bigger hail-producing storms. There's probably some gusty winds in that too, but nothing that looks too major. But some hail down that way. But the whole activity should continue to move slowly south and southeast over the next several hours. And this will be out of here, I think, after about 9 o'clock. This is the northern edge of it, and the last little wave of storms, I think, coming through Burke and up towards Frederick now. So there's your warning. Let's go back to the Burke Tower Cam and see what it shows. Let's see what the Burke Tower Cam be showing here. Look at that shelf cloud. It looks scary, don't it? Looks scary, people, but it's not. It really isn't. Let's look around here. Maybe go due east. So yeah, you got those low hanging, cool, moist clouds there, and people are going to think that's a tornado, but that is not, and that's not a wall cloud. That is just some gusty winds blowing down out of the cloud. That's all that is. And 30, 40 mile per hour winds the most. That's not a tornado they're developing on the radar or on the tower cam there. I know when I was a kid, I'd be terrified of a cloud like that. I used to have storm anxiety when I was a little kid, so I'd be scared. I was scared anytime I saw a dark cloud. I got scared. Now I have the trained eye, so I know when to be scared and when not to be. And I wouldn't be scared of that. Pretty good bit of lightning that though. This is looking to the north end of that shelf cloud, moving into Burkman now. So over Burke, you're probably getting some strong wind gusts. Remember, this tower cam is slightly south of town, but barely south of town. And the shelf cloud with that is, kind of over Burke now. So it looks like these gusty winds will be approaching the interstate shortly. You can kind of see, it looks like you may have some strong winds kind of blowing out now from it. But, expect some pretty strong wind gusts, and then there's your downpours there coming through. It's actually a really cool looking cloud, honestly. But again, it's not anything that I'd be, I'm super concerned about. You know what I said? You know what I mean? I'm worried about when I get worried, you need to be worried, right? So when will it hit my house, Cameron? I don't know that this will hit your house. Plus, you don't live in a house; you live in an apartment, so I don't know that it will. But that is a low hanging shelf cloud for sure. I can understand how people would be scared of that if they saw it. I can actually show my Graham Tower cam too. People are asking about what's going on down towards Graham. I'll show it in just a second. There's kind of the south edge of that shelf cloud there, coming into the northern side of Wichita Falls now. You can see the trees, how they're moving pretty good. And you got those downpours on the back side of that shelf cloud. And you can see the power lines moving around. That's never a good sign, is it? But yeah, just by looking at this, good lightning strikes. You probably got some 30-mile-per-hour winds in there, probably, maybe 40. I don't know, somewhere in there. So give me a second. I'm about to pull up my Graham Tower cam here in a second so we can look at that. But those winds aren't bad there. Like I say, 30, 40-mile-per-hour winds certainly is possible there. All right, so I've got my Graham Tower cam where I can control it. Let's go back to the radar first. So there's that thunderstorm about to roll over Burke with some heavy downpours. You got the gusty winds kind of on the leading edge there. And, some pretty heavy rains coming into the city now. And you've got these, the little hail signature there. And if you look, you can see where you got that strong wind gust pushing through. You might see a gustnado on the leading edge of that too. And gustnado is not it's just the strong wind sometimes can create a little circulation down at the Earth's surface, and it's like a dust devil. It's not connected to the thunderstorm. It's just it develops on the leading edge, and they are usually harmless. They're actually kind of cool to see sometimes. But strongest winds with that moving through northern parts of Wichita County, just north of Wichita Falls. Here in the city, winds don't look too strong, but up towards Burke, they're not bad. And then that's going to kind of, like I say, swipe across the northern part of Wichita Falls, some little downpours over towards Shepherd. And that moves from Burke and then maybe eventually over into Cotton and northern parts of Clay County. Now we go down into Archer, and there's those dying showers continuing to fizzle out. If we go into Graham, the skies are darkening now, but the strongest part of that storm is just to your west here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my Graham Tower cam and take a look at that storm. We can probably have a bird's eye view of it, I would think. Let me find it first. I got to find my Graham Tower cam. There it is. So that's looking kind of north. So let's move it around here. You can see the darkening skies there. This would be due west. This is that big thunderstorm due west of town, and you can kind of see the you can kind of see some of those low hanging features with that too. Probably maybe some decent wind gusts with that off on the horizon there, just west of town, maybe. Looks like some gusty winds and Graham now. You could have, I guess, arguably a shelf or maybe even a little wall cloud. It looks like you got a little bit of a mesocyclone. You can kind of see the stack plates. It could be a shelf feature, but it could also be a mesocyclone. But you kind of got your stack plates in here like that. When you probably got a little updraft rotation in here. And, this would probably be the back edge of it there. I think it's probably some shelf clouds there underneath this mesocyclone. But that's a look to the west from Graham. I think a lot of that is elevated too. I think that's why it's probably not, probably why you don't see any wall clouds or anything like that. I think it's more of a shelf cloud than anything else. You can almost kind of see it kind of extending down some. But that's what's going on in Graham. Back to the radar. Pretty good thunder still here at the station from those storms now. I think like I say, at the station, we might get a little downpour from that, then some little showers behind it. It sounds like the winds have just picked up some. So, but the hail is definitely increasing up there on the west end of Burke Burnett. You get some decent hailstones, probably at least to the size of quarters, maybe even nickel size, quarter size hail there in the northwest side of Burke Burnett. So if you're in the Burke Burnett area, some pretty good hail. We can take a look at some other little things. You don't see the expansive area of the hail core, like you did earlier today with some of these storms. Some of these storms earlier today, man, that hail core went up there at 40,000 feet. These are only going up to about 30, 35. So the hail probably not quite as big as it was earlier today, but still could be some decent size hailstones in there, perhaps. But the winds are picking up a bit now. But you can see that wind gust pushing on through. Let's go back to the Burke Tower Cam now. There it is. You can see the downpours, perhaps maybe from the Burke Tower Cam. You can see the rain coming down. Let's see if we can get some hail on that. Yeah, some pretty good rain, pretty heavy downpours moving into Burke. But that's what we're mostly looking at. It's just the overall weather. This is the kind of weather we're seeing today on May the 22nd is more characteristic what we would see in the month of June. June is our month that we get these what we call convective clusters of thunderstorms like this that produce a lot of heavy rain and wind and hail and that kind of stuff. We kind of got this back in April, and we're kind of seeing it again now in late May. It happens whenever you see weaker jet stream energy in the atmosphere. We get a lot of this kind of mess here. It's not like the big supercells that we can see this time of the year, but this is kind of what we're looking at, and the overall weather pattern really looks kind of off and on wet into early the middle parts of June here, which we can't complain about. But you better get ready because it's going to be very humid. It's anytime we get outside of those cool fronts pushing through, it's going to be humid. But there's the largest hailstones with this, which could be fairly decent size hailstones at that. Moving through the northern part of Burke Burnett now. We can look at the what's called vertical integrated liquid here. And this kind of gives me an idea of how high up in the atmosphere that the ice extends. And that shows a veil of about 7. That could be some large hailstones there, at least maybe golf ball size hail, if not larger. It's suspended aloft. And when that storm top collapses, it's going to probably put that hail down. Some pretty big hailstones there, possible there on the north side of Burke Burnett. And then again, down here in the Graham area, heavy rain and some big hail, especially just west of town and south of Newcastle. You can see there's a bit of a spin, but that's your updraft. And these thunderstorms, even though you don't realize it, these storms, they develop their own little mini areas of low pressure. Supercells do, that is, and they create their own spin. So that's how they help generate some stronger wind gusts. So you definitely see that down here. But again, this is north of the outflow boundary, so it's not really tapping into the Earth's surface. But you can see a little bit of a spin. You're updrafting here, kind of just north of Ellisville and just west of Bunger. So pretty strong wind gusts there. And you actually got some pretty strong wind gusts with another one of these little spins back towards Throckmorton there too. These are little supercells down here for sure, no doubt about it. That's the one we were tracking. That thing is still going. That's a long lived. That thing developed. That supercell there that's east of Brad there. That supercell developed around 2 o'clock this afternoon in Archer County, and that thing has just been going ever since. That gets what, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 5 hours that it's lived, and it's been kind of by itself there for 5 hours. Mostly been a hail producer, but it has had some spin from time to time. But it's kind of north of that outflow boundary, so it's elevated. If it were on the boundary itself, it might be surface based. But this stuff back behind it is definitely elevated too. But they can still produce some gusty winds, but tornado threats are very low with all of that. But the hail threat, so that's some pretty big hail there, west-southwest of Graham, north of Ellisville. Big hail. Heavy rain back into Throckmorton, and this activity is moving east-southeast and will continue to impact northern Throckmorton into Young County and southern parts of Archer and eventually maybe even to Jack County. Jacksboro, some showers and storms developing towards you. And again, there's your thunderstorm moving through Burke there with some pretty decent hailstones there, perhaps. Let's look at the tower cam. Now, the tower cam is not in Burke. It's just south of Burke, so you're not going to see those big hailstones there like you would if it were in Burke. So, it looks like it may be down. Maybe the winds knocked it down. I don't know. It didn't knock it down, but it could have knocked the power out there. So it looks like the power is down from our Burke Burnett tower cam from the wind there. Yeah, that's too bad. Can't see those downpours from there. But yeah, that's a decent storm with some decent hot size hail pushing through Burke now. It looks to me like that hail, like I say, it's mostly small, but there could be some decent sized hailstones there wrapping around the backside coming into the northwest side of Burke. So, I mean, there could be some damaging hail with that. There's your latest update. So the hail area, mostly small, is over the center and northern part of the city here. So, the northern side of Preston Road here, and then up towards Gresham Road, and then back towards FM 369. There's Interstate 44. Now, our tower cam is located, and again, the power must be out down there, kind of about right in here. So if you go north, those restaurants and all are along either side of the road here. Then you go up north, and you've got the restaurants over here on the left side. You got the dealership over in here. And then there's what swings around to the right that crosses the river, and the casinos are up here. So the hail core is definitely kind of over that area where it kind of turns to the kind of bends around and heads towards the river. So some hail probably falling in those areas. Could be some decent size hailstorms, but not anything huge. But there could be some decent hail there. Biggest hailstone to me looks like it's this one at south of Newcastle here. That's got to be some big hail in that. That's those tennis ball size hail, which, we've seen several instances of that today. So it doesn't surprise me. I do this sometimes. I mean, only reason I'm doing this because we've got time to kill, so we can do this on social media. So you can see how these the higher DVZ values lift up higher in a thunderstorm. This goes up. You probably see hail, ice all the way up above 30,000 feet. That is a very strong updraft that's causing that there. Very strong. Let's try another thing here. This is another little feature we can show here, and it just you can see how these hail cores extend way up high there in the atmosphere. Take off some of this stuff here so we can see it better. I'm just playing around with the radar right now is all I'm doing. But yeah, you can see up how high up a lot of this stuff goes in the storm here. But this is that storm in kind of a 3D perspective down to the south. You can see all that red shows all that heavy rainfall. And you can see how high up this level goes. It's way up there high in the storm. So it could be producing some pretty big ice. So this goes up to at least 40,000 feet. That's a pretty strong thunderstorm. But see that heavy rain up that high. That's why it's producing that ice there. So you can see the lightning with it. Pretty cool little feature we have here. So, but it looks at least up into the Burkmanette area. I think the weather looks okay here now. So, I mean, there's still some hail possibilities there, but I need to play with this color palette more. It's kind of confusing here. It's kind of cool to look at, but it's kind of confusing. So, all right. Return back to normal. All right, let's see what we got here. I'm sorry, I've been playing around on the radar there. So, what's expecting in Wichita Falls? We got some thunder rolling through here, but the heaviest of that little thunderstorm is going to pass north of us for sure. Yeah, Cameron, I know you like lightning. You may want to go out and get you some pictures of it, right? Go out into Cameron likes to go out into like open fields and take pictures of lightning. That was his big thing when he first got here. So you may want to go do that again. But, the winds are still kind of gusty up there east of actually some pretty decent wind gusts now coming there into the Charlie area, kind of Dean and then Petrolia. Some pretty strong wind gusts there. I would say some of these winds here are it's 49 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. So there's some decent gusts there if that's indeed reaching the ground. So pretty strong winds. In addition to that, you still got a little hail core there over the northeast side now in Burkmanette, and kind of moving where the Boy Scout camp is and River Creek Golf Course is, the northern part of just northeast of Burke, east of Burke, and kind of heading over into the northern part of Clay County. So Charlie and Petrolia, those areas. Heavy downpours and some hail along with that gusty wind. But you can see down into Wichita Falls, the strongest part of that storm is going to miss us to the north. There's still some showers and some lightning and some thunder over the city here, and you kind of got that little. But these are all weaker showers. The heaviest activity is up north, and then you got those big supercells down to the south. You actually got three of them here. You got one that is the one that Cameron was chasing earlier. That's the one that's been around since 2 o'clock. And you got this one that's just southwest of Graham. And then you got another one over here near Throckmorton. But again, these are all north of that outflow boundary. So they're slightly elevated and mostly hail and wind producers here. But that could be some big hail down there to the southwest of Graham there. That could be some big hail falling from that storm down that way. And, you do got some wind in it, but, nothing that's any signs of organized rotation or anything, or no real strong wind gusts there. And that one there, but that one you can see how there's your outflow boundary would be this light green line color, and then there's your thunderstorm north of it. So they're elevated thunderstorms. Then you got that strong wind gust moving into northern parts of Clay County here. There's a new warning that's been issued, and this does include Wichita Falls, but it shouldn't. This should not include Wichita Falls. Matter of fact, I'm going to remove this part of the warning here. There should not be a warning here. The warning should be, in my opinion, should be up this way, not here. I think that polygon was drawn a little bit too far to the southwest. So, but yeah, strong wind gusts there moving into the northern parts of Clay County. Question is, how will it impact Henrietta? Now, the hail core on that stays north, going to pass. No, it's about to move out of Burkmanette now, northeastern Wichita, and it's going to head over into northwestern Clay County. So Charlie and Dean, there could be a little hail with that, along with the downpours. A lot of dangerous thunder and lightning with that there. And Petrolia, you could get in on some of that. Maybe Dean. I think the worst of that's going to pass north of Jolly. But if you even look at the wind gusts, there's some pretty strong wind gusts, but they're now out of eastern Wichita. They're moving through Charlie, Dean, and Petrolia. These strong wind gusts could impact Henrietta, but they could wind up staying just a little bit north of there too. But those are some pretty good winds with that part of the thunderstorm there. But that's the northern thunderstorm. That's the northern edge. Once that kind of moves through, the southern stuff continues to drift on off to the south and to the southeast. Graham, right now, you got some downpours, but the largest hail certainly is west of you. You're going to see how that hail core is just not moving. It's just sitting there between Prophet and Ellisville. I mean, that has got to be putting down a lot of hail. Thankfully, it's over mostly rural areas there, just west of Graham. But, man, I think it's got to be putting down a lot of hail. That storm just isn't moving much, and heavy rain in addition to that. Here's my Graham tower cam. We can go to that if I can find it. I got so much stuff on my show. I have a hard time finding stuff sometimes. But here's the Graham tower cam. Yeah, you're looking kind of south of town and kind of toward the bottom layer of that cloud there. You can see that. About right in there, maybe some maybe shelf cloud or maybe something like that there. But there's some showers into the Graham area, some downpours. But the worst of it is definitely going to be south and west of you. Elizaville, or I never say that town right, not ever. I've been here for 20 years almost, and I still can't say it right. But there, do got some little hail now crossing, maybe brushing the northern side of the Shepherd Air Force Base, and that's headed over into the Dean area, Charlie, Petrolia. I think just north of Jolly. Probably see some of this activity head towards Henrietta, maybe. But down to the south, there's that storm kind of just raining itself out. That outflow boundary almost looks like a snake. Looks like quarter size hail, 40-mile-per-hour winds west side of Burke earlier. The Norman Weather Service office does such a great job of just communicating with spotters and communicating with us here at the TV station. They just do a fantastic job. So the thunder here in Wichita Falls scared me half. That thunder didn't scare you, Cameron. Will the north storm hit where we can know it's going to pass well south of you? And again, Wichita Falls, just some showers pushing through now. The worst of that storm is well northeast of us. Yeah, there are no tornado risks with any of this here. Yeah, Jason, these storms can be fun to watch. They can be, especially when you don't have anything major like tornadoes and stuff to worry about. They can be really interesting to watch sometimes. So you're welcome, Cody Prince. You're welcome. But, these storms really aren't anything to be too worried about. I haven't even done any cut-ins on News Channel 6 for this stuff here. I used to, back in the old days is how we would do it. We would do cut-ins over the commercial breaks. But I've learned that, really that people who, and I'm sure people have gotten trained to it now, people who, want to get weather information, know where to go. They can just go to social media most of the time and get it here on Facebook Live. It's just easier to, to do that. You don't have to go through production or master control. You don't have to interrupt people's programming, for lower end stuff like this. If it were something major, I would, but this is what I consider lower end stuff. Like, earlier today, there were some good hailstorms and whatnot, and there's some gusty winds, but this is not anything too serious. Matter of fact, there's a lot of instances where I probably wouldn't even do a Facebook Live for this, but I'm doing one anyway. I really ain't got nothing else to do. So, but that big supercell that's over Young County, it's going to probably drift out of there and kind of heading down into Palapino County, down towards PK here pretty soon. With the weak atmospheric flow, these are just not moving very fast, and they're just putting out a lot of rain. So the questionable cloud you see in Charlie is what's called a shelf cloud or a roll cloud there. And I was explaining it earlier to the when I was able to show it to you on the Burke Burnett Tower Cam. You can see that little red area there. So what you see there in Charlie, or you probably saw it a short while ago, is a shelf cloud, and we saw it in Burke. And it's just you got this thunderstorm area here, and on the leading edge of it, you get this rain cooled air. And that rain cooled air protrudes down because it's heavier and dense, and it kind of protrudes downward, kind of like this, almost like a wave. So you'll notice as that cloud moves over, while it looks scary, it'll come over and it may even kind of roll a little bit. But that's that's the cooler air dropping down. And you'll notice as the cloud pushes through, the winds will pick up a little bit. They'll be all one direction though. They won't be circular in motion there. But that storm has really perked up nicely though. And you're going to see a little bit of hail at least there in the Dean Charlie area. Maybe even out over towards the pecan orchards there, maybe some in the Petrolia area and some strong wind gust. And, this is drifting to the southeast. So it could impact Henrietta, or it might go just a hair north of there. There's going to be some gusty winds there either way. 40-mile-per-hour winds. And then the big storm, that's a big storm down there southwest of Graham. Man, I think it's big. And you got the hook part of it elevated. That's probably drifting into Ellisville. Ellisville. Is it maybe Ellisville? Ellisville. I can never say that right. Ellisville. It could be some decent sized hailstones with that, but it's been sitting there. Hasn't been moving much north of Ellisville and east of Murray. And it's just been putting out a lot of hail there, west of Graham. So, and it's just kind of turning over itself now because of weak atmospheric winds, kind of just turning over itself and then dripping to the south. Look at that storm there now moving into northern Clay County there. Heavy rainfall, little hail. The hail looks mostly like dime, maybe quarters. Dimes, maybe nickels, sorry. There are some little showers developing now over Lake Arrowhead and into the Henrietta area. And it looks like this activity, while the heaviest is going to miss Bowie and Montague County down here, if this activity up this way can survive a little bit longer, you might have a chance to get some action over there in the Bowie, Nakona area, maybe after 8 or 9 o'clock. But nothing that looks major at this time. But that's the main game. Attention storms down to the south. There's nothing up into Oklahoma tonight. Ellisville. Is that right? Ellisville? No twisty tails for Ellisville. Am I saying it right? Ellisville. There's that's a supercell. There's going to be some pretty big hail developing in your area pretty soon. So if you're in Ellisville, then you're, definitely going to be some hail in that area. So glad everything's quieted down. And outside of maybe a little shower there in Burke, it looks like the heaviest activity is now over with in Burke. Ellisville. That don't help me at all, Cameron. I think what Judy did or Margaret did is better. Ellisville. Because, Cameron, you're going to Ellisville. Ellisville. I can't say it right. Am I saying it right, though, Margaret? Am I saying it right? Ellisville. I don't know why I can't say it correctly. When we get new people that come here to do weather, they always pronounce Bowie. I'm like, no, it's Bowie. Either way, even if I'm saying it wrong, you know what I'm talking about. But that hail is going to increase down there along the border of Palo Pinto and Young County. Pretty soon, some decent-sized hailstones moving into Ellisville. And you do got some winds in there too. You got some pretty strong winds blowing out from the thunderstorm there, and it could be some wind driven hail there. So some pretty strong stuff moving into Elizaville now. And you also got this storm moving through now northern parts of Clay County. And if you live in Henrietta, you probably see that shelf cloud to the north of you there. The hail looks like it's come down in size, and even the winds don't look quite as strong as they did. I wouldn't be surprised if the severe thunderstorm warning gets canceled here pretty soon. It doesn't look nearly as strong as it did. But the winds down there and the hail down there in southern Young County looks ferocious. I'm not going to lie. That's pretty nasty thunderstorm, and it just isn't moving very fast. So once that hail sets in down there in Elizaville, it could hail for quite a while, and that could be some damaging hail there. I would say golf ball, the largest hail that I've seen so far today is tennis ball size. So I would say golf ball to maybe tennis ball size hail in that thunderstorm into Elizaville, well southwest of Graham. But that's going to move right into the city, and you got some strong winds also pushing that thing out too. So some pretty nasty weather there in Elizaville, along the border of Palo Pinto and Young County there. Throckmorton, heavy rain, thunder, lightning in your area. No severe weather with that. That's weakened quite a bit. The two storms that got the severe, well, actually there's three. But you got this one up here. I think this one's beginning to weaken some. The winds don't look as strong, and the hail looks like it's coming down some. That, to me, is your strongest storm on radar. Then you got the supercell we were tracking earlier today. It's still got some hail threats in it. But that's a gnarly storm there. I'm not going to lie. That is a gnarly storm. I would not want to be inside that thing. That thing's got to be producing some big-time wind and some pretty big-time hail there. In fact, I can look at the winds. Now, this is going to be shooting. The radar beam shoots up a little bit high in the atmosphere with this. But if you just kind of look and guesstimate wind, it's showing 47-mile-per-hour winds in there, but it could be stronger. You do see some twisty motions in it, but that's going to be aloft with the updraft itself. Yeah, it looks like some 60-mile-per-hour winds in there. And like I was saying, it does got that twist in it, but nothing tornadic. There could be maybe an elevated wall cloud with that, but man, the hail sizes look legit in that. Let's do a hail track with it. Here's a hail track over the last hour with it. See, it hasn't been moving very fast. So there it is. You can see the hail, how it moved right down through 380, just east of Prophet, just west of Graham. And now it's building into Elizaville. And we can stop it here and kind of take a look at, what it's showing now, at least size-wise. Let's see here. Hail. And if you kind of take a look, this indicates tennis ball size hail. And that's the largest hail zones I've seen today. And it could be putting down golf ball to tennis ball. It could be putting down a lot of it too. So if you're down in Ellisville, then you could be seeing some of that big hail moving in there. You can see those shiny colors. That shows where that hail is, especially north of Ellisville, and west of Graham, and just to east of Murray there. And that thing is, and also putting down a lot of heavy rain as it drifts to the southeast as well, or actually due south now. This will also move, the forward flank of that's going to move right over the southern half of PK, kind of out towards Fox Hollow in those areas. It may link up with that supercell to the south. And then back to the north, the warning, as expected, did expire. There's still that hail core in there, though, and there still could be some hail with that as it makes its way through northern Clay County. The downpours are increasing into Henrietta. Remember, over here hadn't been really touched over there in the eastern parts of Clay and Monte County. So there could be a little storm energy over there still. So these storms can still produce some gusty winds and periodic little bouts of hail as they make their way off to the east-southeast. And again, the winds aren't nearly as strong as they were. But, it looks like it has definitely weakened and gotten very disorganized. But the big storm down in the south there still remains quite ferocious. That's a big bad boy there. So Henrietta, some showers moving on in. So the old folks pronounce it Liceville. Will it hit Graham? No. Just some showers and downpours from time to time. All right. I'm going to jump off. I've been talking for a long time now, and I'm going to jump off. There's nothing tornadic here, but, like I say, you're going to get smashed with some hail down there in Liceville. So, and then that storm up there in northern Clay County, you're going to brush Henrietta with some downpours, but it doesn't like anything major. So, I mean, I guess I could stay on with it if you wanted me to, but it's not like it's anything life-threatening here. But because that storm is weakening pretty quickly, but it can still pulse up from time to time as it makes its way east southeast. Pretty good. Maybe some brief downpours or some downpours but maybe about to build into Henrietta. Maybe some small hail there, and then you're going to see this activity develop over to the east southeast into eastern parts of Clay County, Bellevue, and eventually over into Montague County. Nothing severe there at the moment, but again, your big storm is now well southwest of Graham and moving to the south. All right, I'm gonna jump off here and let my breath, let my voice calm down here some.